Welcome viewers to another video, and this is another video on a very interesting and exciting gambit variation that you at home might want to try out yourselves. So what is this gambit variation I'm about to show you? Well, it's a so-called Max Lange attack. And this was named after a German player who first came up with the idea. It's especially dangerous at club level, but also seems perfectly playable at even the highest level. And it really continues in our spicy gambit series. And I'm trying to find the most interesting, exciting openings that you at home might want to try out yourselves. And this is the first in a series of free videos on this particular opening. Hopefully these free videos will cover pretty much everything you need. So let's dive into the action. So the game I'm going to use to demonstrate this first Max Lange attack masterpiece, I think it's very relevant and has some beautiful ideas to it. So what is the Max Lange attack? Well, we're looking at this from the white perspective, so it's something you might want to play with white, and it starts with e4, as most of the spicy gambit lines do, which I've looked at in the past. And this is a gambit you can play against e5. So here there's a number of moves. In the past I've looked at d4. I've also looked at the King's Gambit with f4. But maybe these moves are a bit too risky for some of you out there. And the main move, knight to f3, is our continuation here. Now, black has a number of ways to defend e5, but most certainly the most popular move is knight to c6. And now in order to play the Max Lange attack, we need to develop our kingside bishop and place this piece on c4. And this is aiming at what I always teach beginners, black's Achilles heel, the f7 square, which is a weak square. Now, bishop to c4 is not the most popular move. The most popular move is bishop b5, the so-called Rule Lopez opening or Spanish opening. But this leads to long maneuvering battles, and it also gives black the option of playing the dreaded Berlin defense, which you may have heard about, and that is with knight to f6. And I'm not going to show too much of this, but an endgame appears quite quickly. But you can avoid all that boring rubbish. Who wants an ending? We don't want an ending when we play chess. We want to checkmate our opponents by playing bishop to c4. Now here again, black has a choice. He can either pick knight to f6 or bishop to c5. Now, the Max Lange attack, you can play against both of these moves, in actual fact, which is great because we save on a lot of material we need to learn. The move order I'm going to be concentrating on is when black plays knight to f6 here. This is a very standard developing move, and white has a number of options here. After knight to f6, the way we're going to play this is by playing d4, a very aggressive move, opening up the center immediately. And here, well, black really has to capture on d4, and now we go for maximum acceleration development by castling kingside. And this is the start of the Max Lange attack. Now, in the game in question, after knight to c6, bishop to c4, black played the other main move, bishop to c5. Now, later on, I'll be showing you the Evans Gambit with b4, very exciting move. But if you don't want to learn the theory of the Evans Gambit, you can simply play castles kingside here. And this should lead back into the Max Lange attack. After knight to f6, and now d4. And pawn takes d4, we go back into our main Max Lange position. Let's just have a look at the move order that you're more likely to get in order to reach this position. That is with bishop c4, knight to f6. Can you remember the move? d4, opening up the center. Pawn takes d4. What you do here, you get your king safe with castles. And here, the critical move in this position is bishop to c5. And also, I'd say the other critical move is knight takes pawn. But we'll have a look at knight takes e4 in one of the videos later on, in one of the videos, the free videos I'm going to film in a series. In this game, we're concentrating on bishop to c5. So what should we do here? Well, we need to keep our initiative going because we've given up a pawn. So we need to play with energy, try to create a threat because we gambited the pawn, keep looking at ways to create threats. How can you create a threat here? By playing e5, attacking the knight. Now, black should counteract against this with the move d5. Other moves are not as strong. For example, if this knight moves to g4, white has a very strong tactic here. A tactic that's very common, starting with, can you see the tactic? Bishop takes f7 check. We want to move the knight on f3 so we can capture black's knight. For example, king takes bishop, knight g5 check, and next move we're going to take that knight. We force the black king to move. Black can no longer castle, meaning we should get a good attack against the opponent's king. So after this move pawn to e5, don't worry, I'll run through this all again. It's quite a lot to take in, but just enjoy the game if you can't remember the theory. Black's best move is pawn to d5, counter-attacking, opening up the center. And here, look at how Eddie the e-pawn strives forwards. We got to play aggressively again. There's no point retreating our bishop. We've given up a pawn. Let's keep trying to find the most aggressive moves. Pawn takes f6. Black has to take our bishop. And now, because we've castled, we have an open line towards the black king. And it'd be rude not to use that open line. So rook to e1 check. And in this position, what can black do? Well, here, bishop to e6 is the move we're going to start by looking at, because this to me looks like the most logical move here. In the next game, we're going to look at a fascinating encounter where black played king to f8, which may actually be the best move. But let's look at black blocking the check first. Bishop to e6. Now, the computer, if you put this on the computer, gives pawn takes g7 as the top move, and it gives white a slight advantage here. And I think this is a very good and sensible move to play here, so we're going to stick to this. Another move you may want to try, and a common idea in the Max Lange attack, is knight to g5. This is a very common idea, just trying to put pressure on black's center straight away. And there's been a couple of nice games in this where white gets an attack very quickly. One game between two grandmasters continued g6, but after queen to f3, black was in a lot of trouble here because there's a major threat of taking on e6 and pushing with f7. For example, queen d6, bishop to f4, black not playing very well, I have to say. Queen d7, and now a great move from white. Rook takes e6 check. This is just the kind of tactical idea you need to be aware of. Your opponent's king is stuck in the center. Don't give him time to castle. And the point to take him with the rook is that after pawn takes rook, our knight is a better attacking piece than our rook on e1, and we can play f7 check. And white's got a very strong attack in this GM encounter after king f8 and now knight to e4, threatening bishop to h6, a deadly check, and attacking the bishop on c5. So this idea, let's just go back to the start, shall we? So you can see how we get this again, reinforce the ideas. We start the Max Lange attack with bishop c4. And our idea is to go d4, castles quickly, and e5. Now, the main move order we're going to look at this is with knight to f6, d4, play this move quickly. Pawn takes d4, and now castles, quick development. Knight takes e4 will be looked at later on, but let's have a look at bishop c5 first. Black develops a piece, gets ready to castle. Now, other moves are quite inferior here, apart from bishop c5 and knight takes e4. A lot of players might play bishop to e7, but this is a very bad square for the bishop. Why is that a bad square? Well, because now we can go e5. Remember, this is one of our main ideas. And if black tries the counterattack d5, he's going to lose a piece. We take on f6, And we can now see why the bishop is badly placed here. Our pawn will take the bishop. At the end of the complications, we will be a piece up. So that's why if we go back after d4, pawn takes d4, castles, black plays bishop c5. Can you remember the move to play now? Well, we should play e5 here. Black's main move now is d5. And after pawn takes f6, pawn takes c4, we got to use the open line, rook e1 check. And now bishop to e6 is what this game is concentrating on. So we just had a look at knight g5, but in actual fact, I believe the move pawn to takes g7 to be a much stronger possibility. This forces rook g8, and now another typical idea for the Max Lange attack, and that is bishop to g5. You often use the g5 square to put a piece on, whether it be a knight to try and attack the center, or a bishop to stop black from castling queenside. Remember, with a bishop on g5, black cannot castle through that bishop. Queen d7 was played in our game, and now we need to develop. We don't have an immediate way to force the attack here, so let's develop. Which piece is not developed? The knight on b1. Think where you'd like to move that knight to. Well, I see a very juicy home on f6. If you get the knight to f6, that is sayonara, my friend. Good night. So let's move that knight towards that square. Knight bd2. Black should take the pawn. Knight to e4. That knight flying into the weak square. Always remember, look for ways to improve the development of your pieces and look for weak squares. Here, black only has one really decent move to stop the knight going there. Bishop to e7. Now, if you ever get this position in a game, it is quite deep into the game. I'd recommend you just go bishop takes bishop, and if something like queen takes bishop, knight takes d4. And white, according to the computer, has an advantage here. For example, black can castle, but you can go knight takes c6, and this attacks the black queen. If black recaptures, queen f3. And it looks to me like the black king is much weaker than the white king. Just look at that horrible formation of pawns in front of the black king. They are completely shred apart there. So that is the simple solution, really, to this idea. But in the game here, white tried another option. Knight to f6 check. And after knight to f6 check, he keeps his strong bishop. Now, the computer doesn't like this line quite as much, but it's a very practical way of playing. And let's just see how white generated an attack in the game. Rook g6, bishop h4, stopping the black king castling. The king run to f8, rook to e4, pressurizing the d4 pawn. Bishop d5, rook f4, lining up against the black king there. Rook to e8, and now bishop to g3. And this allows the knight to move into h4. Bishop to e6, and here, well, white decided just to take on d4. And after some exchanges on d4, white had a slight advantage here out of the opening. Because his pawn structure is better, his bishop defends the king very nicely, the white king. White has the open d-file, and the black king is lacking a bit of pawn protection. So that's my first introduction to the Max Lange attack. And remember, what you do is just play your typical moves, place your bishop to attack the Achilles heel, and then after knight to f6, you can play this great move d4, blasting open the center. And here we castle quickly, and we're going to look at more examples of this in the next couple of videos. So stay tuned to the following examples. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave your comments below. Thank you so much for viewing that one. Bye for now.